Good morning and welcome to Venture Forward. Today I'm out in the Jeep exploring primitive forest roads in Coronado National Forest located in southern Arizona. If you're interested in retracing my steps, my detailed GPS data is available to Patreon subscribers and also to paid members of venture4wd.com. I've had a lot of folks ask me, what's the difference between becoming a member on your website versus becoming a subscriber on Patreon? The answer is nothing. With the exception of a personal blog post on Patreon, both subscription solutions grant you access to the exact same data. So it's just a matter of your personal preference. But enough talk, let's go exploring. Not far from the trailhead at the base of this canyon are several very nice dispersed campsites. They're on both sides of this wash and they're van accessible, they're shady, and some are even up against a rock face. If you camp here or you come here to hike or go on a four-wheel drive adventure, I would expect to see other people. It does seem to be a high traffic area. So far I passed 3 groups of hikers and 2 vehicles, and it's a Tuesday morning in April. Another really nice dispersed site beneath the grove of Sycamore. And it looks like there's another one up the hill. Let's go check it out. These campsites, I'm sure, see a decent amount of traffic, but they're beautiful. I don't know if that stream flows year-round, but there's multiple crossings coming up the trail, all very shallow and just a few feet across. was a nice small dispersed campsite at the switchback back there that was big enough for one vehicle. It had a stone fire ring, probably a good option when all the campsites down in the canyon are occupied. The only disadvantage is it's at a higher elevation and somewhat more exposed to the sun and the wind, but it looks like a great option if you want to stay out of the high traffic areas. Whew. Unfortunately, it just happens to be an extremely windy day. It's also kind of chilly. But I am up out of the canyon at a major forest road junction. I could go that way, which looks pretty cool, but there's also a forest road that way that I think goes up onto the ridge. I might go south on this forest road because it seems to stay deeper in the mountains and the wind might be less of a problem. Roll of the dice. Adventure is afoot. Let's go. This forest road segment follows a grassy ridge, and according to the map, it's fairly short. It's a little bit more lightly traveled, and the terrain is rough, but it's not too technical. Here, I don't even think I've gone a mile and I'm already at the next junction. That goes up the mountain, and that's an alternate return trip. Well, I'm not ready to go back down yet, so I'm going to continue up the mountain despite the wind. Okay, straight across the valley on the adjacent mountain, there is what appears to be an extremely steep hill climb. It might just be the angle that I'm looking at it, but it's intimidating from here. I'm not going to know until I get closer to it, but we're going to go check it out. I don't have any reservations about bailing when the terrain gets too sketchy, and so far this has been a lot of fun, a lot of ups and downs, loose rock. It's been like a roller coaster, but it hasn't been dangerous yet. And signs just warning about a narrow switchback up ahead. Switchback doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's been recently widened and reinforced. Fine so far. There's plenty of winch points and there's enough space on the switchback to turn around and bail if I need to. Alright, I'm on the steep part, open differentials, 15 psi all around, and not much trouble at all. The bark is far worse than its bite. When you look at hill climbs from atop an opposing hill, they tend to look more formidable than they actually are, and fortunately that was the case here. Wow, this has turned out to be an epic route. I never do any research in advance because I like to not know what I'm getting myself into. And this segment of trail that I'm on now is the third act of today's route. The first being the canyon, the second being the loose rocky hills and the ridges, and this is an out and back that goes up to the summit of the mountain, and then I have to backtrack, but this is really gnarly. Okay, that's sketchy. Here we go, the final ascent. I have the camera mounted outside and I'm wearing the microphone because I don't think the outside audio is going to be usable. It is so windy. And I'm going to run up the hill. Parking brake first. We're in park. This is Jag. Oh. All right, 7,570 feet, give or take. We made it. Far out. Ooh. That was awesome. I'm close to 7,600 feet, and from what I can tell by my GPS tracks, I went around 5 miles. It's hard to say exactly because when I make these videos, I do a lot of driving back and forth to get the camera, so even though it was about 5 miles, I probably went closer to 7. The boulders at the summit are really interesting. They have round, like, river rocks embedded in them. I'm not a geologist, but I can imagine decades ago that this was all underwater. And here we are in year 2023, the future, and it's now the top of a mountain. Alright, it's 4 p.m. I didn't have anything to eat today except for cheese Danish. I didn't have the foresight to bring a sandwich or anything. So right now I'm going to go back down the mountain and head back to home base to be with Shannon, grab a bite to eat, and I will catch up with you all tomorrow. $206,000 miles, most of which were on adventure. The Jeep, which is a 2013 Wrangler Rubicon Unlimited, has served me amazingly well over the years, and it continues to dish it out today. But as I was on my way home, out the window, it sounded like there was some bearing noise, like a resident singing. I'd hear it mainly with the window open as I'd coast to a stop at traffic lights. U-joints and wheel bearings seemed to be pretty good, but what I did find was the front output bearing on the transfer case has a little bit of a scratchy, weird tone to it. So I might have a bad bearing in the transfer case. Other than that, I noticed my front coil spring, which is an AEV 3.5-inch dual sport, is rubbing against the frame rail on the driver's side. The spring might be deformed, it might be seated incorrectly, or there might be a fracture in it somewhere that I can't see. I don't know. It's still riding fine, it's still sitting level, so I'm not too concerned about it. But these minor wear and tear issues aside, RNG's still going strong. Keeps kicking out. Alright, so I'm gonna call that a wrap for this episode. That route was incredible. And in a Wrangler Rubicon lifted 3 inches with 35-inch tires, it was a rough route, but I was able to be fairly relaxed throughout. The terrain was very rugged, but I didn't feel the need for a spotter or anything like that. If you take a stock four-wheel drive vehicle, one with generous tire size and clearance, you could probably make it to the top of the mountain, but a spotter would be highly recommended. I recorded a lot of GPS data in this episode, so if you're interested in that, you have access if you're a Patreon subscriber or a paid member of Venture4WD.com. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again next week.